Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we have a very special local guest.
This is Rob Karr. He has a birthday coming up, September 28th here soon. Something that's awesome and special about Rob is he actually hired Dakota, and then he hired me about a year later. This was like 10 years ago. Yeah. Rob was the corporate recruiting manager for Glenbrook Dodge and Glenbrook Hyundai. We both got in at Hyundai. And I remember that interview with Rob. I remember him being a cool, kind, genuine guy. Since then, Rob's went on to have many different jobs throughout the dealerships, multiple different dealerships. He's at Shepherd's right now, and he just got into the fixed parts operation manager position. This is Rob Karr.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for coming on, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the first question that I want to ask is, what did you see in us, and then what do you think is different about, like, let's just say salespeople? Well, we'll answer the first question first. So, like, what did you see that was different, or what do you look for, different things like that?
Well, when I met you guys, I seen the eye of the tiger. No, I'm kidding. Literally, I could see you both wanted an opportunity for a change in your life and direction of career, and that really means something to me, to have an opportunity, because you can say that you want something, but deep down inside, you can sense it from a person if they're even just throwing words at you, or if they're telling you, I want to change my life. And I felt that from both of you.
So how do you find that, or how do you know? Because, like, again, I've heard a lot of different people that say that too, and then you bring them on, and they're like, yeah, that person was just blowing smoke. Yeah. Like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll do anything. Then you hire them, and it's like, no, you weren't. Do you just take a chance on them, or do you, like, have a feeling about certain people?
Well, I think a lot of it is that gut feeling, but the other thing also is, will someone do what you ask them to do? So the smallest steps become the biggest steps in their careers. And I remember when I first interviewed you, Dakota, I remember how young you were. And I don't know if you remember this conversation.
Oh, I remember.
And I said, you're going to look like the youngest salesperson out there. So I do remember telling you, you're going to have to dress the best. And you're also going to have the product knowledge better than anyone else. So when that customer asks you a question, you have an answer. But always tell the truth. If you don't know, tell them that you'll get the answer for them before they leave.
Yep.
And I feel just those initial steps, because like in sales, we always talk about, the first impression, right? You only get one time to make that first impression. So dressing more professional than anyone else, people will, by nature, look at you or greet you first, give you the opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I also remember my shirt. Like, dude, I was just like some poor kid and stuff, like just coming with whatever I could find from H&M and stuff. Yeah. But I remember my shirt was wrinkly, and you're like, hey, next time you need to iron that shirt before an interview.
But, the thing is, with those enhancements that I try to tell people about, it's not about tearing down. It's about creating the best opportunities for that individual to be successful. It's not ever about nitpicking. It's about, let's do this so you can be successful. We can all be successful with these small changes if we can identify them and help someone out.
Yep. You know what's funny is, like, you guys must have had the same script or same thing that you asked the questions. So I remember, like, that meeting. It's so funny that I was 20 years old at the time, and yeah, it was in 2014, so almost 10 years ago today. It was like I believe it was in November, because it was cold and I was almost about to work in a trailer factory. I dropped off my wife at the time at the mall, and then she messages me. She's like 2.5 hours later, she's like, what's going on? Like, are you still in the interview? Because I interviewed with you for about 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, and we just kept talking. Yes. Then I went to Mark McKibben, and he asked the same exact question. I'm like, bro, I just answered these because you were like, hey, you brought me right over. Did you think there was something different about me compared to other people, or was I just like, all right, this is another sales guy, and you got to meet Mark?
No, I truly felt, Dakota, that if you would do the small things, even from ironing that shirt, that is a step to becoming successful. The smallest thing can be the biggest thing. So when I looked at you and you said you didn't want to, I think you were doing landscaping, weren't you?
Yep.
And you didn't want to do that anymore. And I thought, here's someone that has the potential to say, I don't want this anymore. Now, the success rate for people saying that and doing that is two different things. Now, typically 10% of the people will do what you try to lead them towards, to say, hey, do this, this, and this is going to make you successful. I do remember another gentleman that I had interviewed at the time, and I told him he had never been in sales to go to the library, because he said he didn't have any money, get a book about sales, read it, and just write me 2 paragraphs or type out 2 paragraphs, and then bring it back to me and let's have a second interview. And that young man did it. And, he hired and he was pretty successful. But
Who was it?
I can't remember his name. He wasn't as impactful as you or Tony. So, but I do remember, and you know this also, after 90 days, typically in automotive field, when someone starts selling, they figured it all out in 90 days. And I remember trying to tell this young man, don't start challenging everything that everybody's trying to feed into you, because you're going to think that you know the business in 90 days. And of course, nobody wants to do a car deal with you, and all these things that you put into your head that's real negative, that does not help with your success. And that's what happened to that young man. So he started out of the gate awesome, but after about 6 months, he was gone.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's crazy because I told our acquisitions guy something very similar. He was 19 years old, and I'm like, you're going to get to a point where you think even you know more than I do. And he got there very quickly, and he scaled up very fast. But yeah, it's interesting. For me, it took a lot longer. It was more about the 2-year mark, and about the 2-year mark, that's when I felt that my ego came up, and then I'm like, man, I know more, and like I'm the top guy, and I'm like I'm able to do this stuff. And then that's whenever you think that you know everything, at that moment, that's when you're not able to learn anything. That's the interesting part about it. And yeah, like we've seen a lot of different people get there. I feel like 90 days is real fast to get there.
Yeah.
But what about Tony? Did you think that Tony was similar to me, or did you like see something totally different, or what were you thinking with Tony's interview?
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $997. Click the link below.
Buy the course.
With Tony, I really felt he had a lot of empathy in his heart, and I felt like he could make that connection with some customers once he would have some of that one-on-one time with them to try to build value with them about what they're looking for. And I think he was a little bit more reserved than you were, but I still seen the potential in it. And then plus the story of you guys boxing and stuff, that was always encouraging. So.
Yeah, Tony's a good storyteller. And you know what's funny is they usually say that facts tell and stories sell, but sometimes Tony's stories don't have a point to them.
I built so much rapport, I just couldn't ask for the close ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, did Tony ever tell you did you know how Tony's sales career went?
Not really, obviously not super well. I didn't see him on the board as much as you, but yeah. I know, I don't think when he came in, he didn't have a wrinkled shirt. I do remember that, so.
Yeah, well, Tony grew up a lot richer than me. That's why. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I wasn't used to, I just didn't feel good about selling cars. Like, I would look at the numbers and I'd be like, oh man, I can't believe these people are going to spend like $350 a month. That is crazy. Like, I'm hurting them by selling them this car, kind of thing. And just because I wasn't congruent on it, and I hadn't learned like how to be bold, or like how to close, or like how to ask the right questions to lead to the sale. And so knowing what I know now, if I went back, I'd do better than I did then.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know if I might be a 10-car guy or something like that as far as my sales skills, but
no, I do remember and like so many times when people get in automotive sales, it's one of two type of mentalities. One is just get in front of people all the time, and other ones that want to become, they're so indulgent into the information about the cars that they forget about getting in front of people also. You know, people are always going to come in the dealership and buy cars. They're looking for a great salesperson, and I'm sure you guys know that. But throughout those years when I was doing recruiting, I see that happening a lot for people. Some people, I got to study before I can go talk to someone. That's not always what it's about, because people do appreciate when you're honest with them and say, hey, I don't have that answer, but I'm going to get it for you before you leave.
100%. I see a lot of people that say stuff like that. Like, I know so much about cars, I'd be a great salesperson. You know, I'm like, you know, the funniest part is the worst salespeople are the people who know so much that they just want to share the knowledge. Yeah. I'm like, dude, whenever you know, and you can get to that point and I told our acquisitions guy the same thing, you're going to get to a point where, like, you know so much, you're actually a worse salesperson because you want to share the information, because now it makes you feel like you're smart and like you're like, it's your ego. You want to prove what you know, and you don't want to prove what you know. You want to not say anything and be 100% with that person and find out what they want to accomplish and only give them a fraction, a tiny bit of what you know in order to help them get what they want. That's what I believe like is what's really good.
Well, my misperception was just that I was delivering value. Because when, you know, you're sharing what you know and the other person's listening, but they're not really there necessarily, you're like, oh yeah, I'm delivering so much value. But really, they're just like, dude, you're wasting my time.
100%.
I wanted, like, this one thing. I didn't want to know all the features and benefits of the car.
Right.
Yeah, I hyper focus into what they want, and then I ask a lot of questions, find out what they want, and then, all right, based on what you're telling me, this sounds like it would be the best option for you. Does this make sense? And then just ask them and let them decide, because nobody wants to, you know, they always say that everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. And so, like, that's something that I always remember is like, yeah, you don't want to be pushed to do anything, but you do like a guide. And if you ask somebody, bounce some ideas, here's what I'm looking for, perfect. I think this matches everything. Does it seem like it makes sense? And
yeah, you have to be a good active listener. You know, you got to ask key questions. They'll tell you. But so many times, whether it's selling cars, cell phones, anything that you're selling, we're so quick to push talk. Sometimes if you just listen a little bit, you'll start feeling and you'll get that knowledge of, hey, this is really what they need to make a major purchase decision, you know. But so many times people forget about that. It's always, let me tell you this is, slow down a little bit and listen, you know, and then that way you can truly help that customer resolve whatever decision they need made to either purchase a vehicle or a watch or, you know, cell phone, all that stuff.
Yep.
So when I think of a dealership, I think there's different cultures at different dealerships. When you think back on your experiences, where do you think that you had the most fun? Like, you had the best culture that you're like, oh, I really liked working at like this place, or with like these specific people too? Because sometimes it's like, man, some people come in, some people leave, that sort of thing. Is there anybody or any place that really stands out to you as like, oh, that, like, take me back, because those people were like so much fun?
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, that time involved with Mark McKibben, I had a blast with Mark. You could tell that Mark really was engaged to it and he cared about it and all about training. You know, now you can train to death, but you also got to get out there and do it also at some point. But I remember when I was doing the full-time recruiting and able to do training with people for, I think it was 8 weeks.
Wow.
And I literally met people that, again, they want to change their life. They either came from a factory or, you know, a single mom with 2 kids, and she was a waitress, lost her job, and wanted to start something new. And I was able to have conversations with people and figure out, what can I do to help them be successful? And literally, I train people to shake hands with customers and face them. You know, so many people, even the smallest thing, they'd reach out and they wouldn't even want to look at the customer. I'm like, we can't do that. But we practice upstairs instead of practicing on the customer, because that's what being a professional is. You don't want to practice on everybody. Another thing, another gentleman, he like would so loud when he would talk, and it was intimidating to people, you know. And it's like, I was like, oh, we can't do that, Dale, you know. And so all these little pieces, you know. But the great reward is seeing people change their lives, where they didn't have to be scraping at the bottom, you know, of the barrel. And one moment I'd like to talk about. I have a friend that he had passed away, and he was well known in the community. His name was Dave Hess, and great guy. And I met him at Glenbrook when I started selling cars in 2005, and he was selling cars. And Dave and I, throughout the years, sold cars together, and he left and came back. And I'll never forget, and he always told this story to so many people. We're sitting up in the lunchroom having lunch, and Dave told me, he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. And I said, why? What's going on? And he goes, I only have 5 cars out. And he said, and I'm not going to be able to make my house payment. Now, mind you, Dave, and we joked around a lot, but I could also push him a little bit. And I said, well, how much money you need? And he told me the dollar amount. I said, okay, so your average per copy is this. You have this out. You still have five days left. And I was joking around. I said, I should just smack you off your chair. I said, you've already admitted to defeat. I said, the month's not over. I said, you've been selling cars for 7 years. And I said, what's the most amount of cars you've ever sold? And it was 20-some cars in 1 month.
Wow.
And he had 5 out. I'm like, the month's not over. Within those days, he sold more cars, more than enough to pay his house payment and all his bills. He'd come back and thank me.
Wow.
He said, if you wouldn't have said that to me, I would have admitted defeat. And sometimes that's what people just need, to help a little bit.
Yep.
And he told that story a lot. He's a great guy. So
That's freaking awesome.
yeah. So most fun is training. I love it. Like I said, people always remember what you give to them, not always about taking.
Right.
And I like to give opportunities and help people. And I don't know everything. I never claim to know everything, but just little pieces, because I was a guy that started out washing cars in a dealership when I was 17 years old.
Isn't that what Tuttle did too?
I think so. Yeah. But I walked into Tompkinson Chrysler Plymouth was on Coldwater Road, where Midwest Shooting Center is, and I didn't really know anyone. Walked in there and asked for a job, and the general manager said, "Yeah, you can pick up trash in the lot." So I said, "Awesome," because my first job was washing dishes, was in the restaurant, went to busboy, and I'm like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life in the restaurant business. So yeah, and I love cars. And as I went through the career, I love helping people. And because there's a lot of bad dealerships out there that don't treat people right. And I've always said it's not the building, it's the people.
Right.
And if you can put value in the people and you have value yourself to the people that need help, that's what's the most important thing.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah. What would you say? So you did a lot of sales training in your lifetime.
Yeah.
What would you say the top 3, like, let's say not just car sales, but like top 3 sales tips that you could give to everybody?
Sales tips?
Yeah. Just like, all right, hey, this is whether it's closing, whether it's intro, whatever it is, like top 3 that you could think of.
The number one thing I would say is get engaged with your customer. Ask them how you can help them. Don't tell them how you're going to ask them, what can I do to help you? It's all about helping people.
Yep.
The second thing is definitely knowing the product to build that value. Through all those training systems, we had Joe Verdi, Grant Cardone, Dave Anderson, all these different people. And I was able to, as I went through this, it was funny, and I'll kind of divert here a little bit. When I went to sales training, I was in the classroom and they put, they might have even been VHSs back then in 2005. And literally they had books and I would do the homework. Now, there's a great big classroom, and we come back the next day, and you know how many people actually did the homework?
2.
Very few. Yeah, I was one of them.
Yep.
And everybody said, you don't need to do that, but I'm like, no, I want to learn this because there is a skill set to it. There is knowledge to it. Sometimes it's not innate for everybody.
Right.
Well,
most of the time it's not.
Yeah. So getting that knowledge and being able to apply that. But if you look at it, if you help people and serve people, right, and you're selling a product, the money will come.
Yep.
All the money will come.
Yep.
You don't have any worry about that, but you've got to provide that information. You got to provide a service to the customers, and they're more. Have you guys ever went somewhere specifically because of the way you were treated? Absolutely, we all have, right? Have you ever avoided a place because of the way you were treated?
Yep.
And take the money out of it.
Right.
And that's what happens in car sales, and that's what happens in business. But sometimes businesses don't understand that, and also the leaders of the businesses don't understand that.
Yep.
It's people, not the building.
Pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
Yeah, that's what is kind of funny too, because when you really think about food in general, I was listening to Ed Milet, and he basically talks about like, man, the food tastes the same. At some point, your food is only going to be so good. It's not the food that you're paying for; it's the experience.
Yes.
And so it's the same thing with everything. Like whenever I was just selling Hyundais, you know what I mean? But like I gave them a experience as if they're buying a luxury car, unless they were buying a luxury car and they're a doctor and they're treating me like crap. Then I just be like, all right, like, hey, good luck. I'm gonna get you with somebody else. 'Cause I don't think we're gonna be a good fit.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, giving them a great experience. And yes, I wanted to talk about one other thing too that I think is important. So you put, obviously want to help, ask good questions by, wanting to help, know the product. The other thing, like, would you have anything else that you could think of that would like be a really helpful tip for somebody?
Get educated about sales. There's so much information out there, and some people sit there, oh, I can sell anything, and they get the opportunity, and then they kind of jam up because they don't know anything about it. They don't understand sales as a process.
Right.
Everything in life that has ever come together, there's process to it. Whether you're the spaceship, you think they just lit a rocket, and they flew up there, and no, there's processes to all this stuff. And that's what I thought was amazing, because for the first half of my career, I was in the back end of the business. I worked in parts and, service and all these different things. And then I was like body shop, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm done with all those businesses. And I got an opportunity at Glenbrook to become a salesperson.
Yep.
And I went to their sales training, and I was like, oh my goodness, as I'm reading through all these books, and doing my homework, I'm like, I had no idea. And then you grab a hold of that, and it's like, wow, I'm empowered that I can go now and help customers and be confident that we're going to walk through this step, right, of selling to help them make a decision.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I got to make a lot of friends, and I made a lot of money.
Yep. That's freaking awesome.
It is.
How much did you sell? Like your top sales month, what was the most you ever sold? Do you remember?
It was either 23 or 28 in 1 month.
23 or 28, those are big differences.
I know, but listen, that's been a long time. That's been since 2005. So
it's like the 3 and the 8 look very similar.
right. But, I do remember I went from being a body shop manager and selling cars and basically doubled my income.
Wow.
And that's when I was hooked to say, there's so many people out there that go into this certain space, they work for minimum wage, or they're going into this factory with no windows. And it's like, listen, you can be more if you want more, but you're going to have to do some work and get uncomfortable.
Yep.
I was not and this is what was just crazy to me. I wasn't a great public speaker in front of people. It was always terrifying. Nobody likes to stand up in front of the room and talk typically, right?
Sure.
I was the same guy. I was terrified, And when they approached me about becoming a trainer, the reason why they approached me about that, they told me, is because I was very process driven, and I also love to help customers. And that's how they wanted to start making their business be, and to educate the people, train the people, and all that. And when that happened, I realized it doesn't matter if you're doing landscaping, right? It doesn't matter if you work at a grocery store. It doesn't matter if you're a server at a restaurant. You have that opportunity to change your life. And truly, it can be selling cars. It can be selling cell phones. There's a lot of good income out there, but people don't ever want to get uncomfortable.
Right.
And the most uncomfortable thing that happened to me, and a lot of people don't know this, the dealership paid to send me down to Texas to the Joe Verdi Train the Trainer. that was terrifying. Hundreds of people, right? And you had to put together your presentation, and everybody kind of graded you on it. And I'm down there by myself. And I'm like, oh no, I've never had to do this. But again, I went back to my hotel room. I had a little portable thing. I was listening to CDs, put my presentation together. And the instructor there told me something. He goes, listen, he said, and hate's a strong word. I don't want to talk about this because it sounds like I'm patting myself on the back. But that instructor, his name was Tim, told me, he said, you were the best out of everybody, and you were the most improved in the time that you were down here, because everybody screwed up in the beginning.
Wow.
Listen, we're never perfect. None of us are. But that growth and getting uncomfortable can just be an amazing thing. And I just had that opportunity. The dealership gave that to me, that then I could feed into other people. And that's what's made, you talk about the most fun. That to me is like legacy, being able to help people change their lives, you know, because a lot of people don't want to help others, you know, and dealerships, and I'm sure you know that too, Tony. It's about giving to each other and seeing everybody grow and become something more than they ever thought.
And I love that. I love that too. How would you do it? So I've always been a sink or swim kind of guy too, and I feel like the dealership definitely breeds that. So they kind of just throw you in. So like, how do you give until the point, like, let's say they're not producing, like, and how do you do that? Because like, obviously you brought some people in that you thought would do well, and then maybe they couldn't or they didn't. And so how do you know when to, like, all right, I've given them all the resources they need, and it's no longer my responsibility, they didn't step up, and it's theirs. How do you know when's the right time to let them go?
I think it determines on, are they taking the steps that you try to lead them with, to say, listen, I'd like you to do this, this, and this, and this could be the outcome if you do this. If they don't follow those smallest pieces to be successful, and it's been 90 days, 120 days, it might be time to part ways, because if they don't have it in the beginning, it's very hard to get it after the fact, and I wouldn't want someone to be in there, because, it's a full commission position typically. So why would you want to work somewhere that you've got 4 months invested in and you're making $1,500 a month? You can go back waiting tables or work in the factory and work overtime and make more money.
Right.
But if you really want it, you put that effort in, it makes all the difference in the world. Yeah.
So when you think about the dealership and you think about the culture and that sort of thing, what's the least fun that you've ever had? Because we talked about the most fun.
I think the least amount of fun is sometimes you get that feeling that it's never enough, and this can, if you're in management, sometimes you feel like, you get ground on all the time. You got to do more and more and more. And being a self-motivated person, sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes you need someone to walk alongside you, as you do to lead the people in the dealership to be successful. You need that partnership also, to say, hey, I know you can do this. Let me show you. Let me help you. Or what resources do I need to help you? Because we can all grow with information. The car business, there's so many people, so many dealerships in town, and there's so much that everybody could give to each other to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the most that you ever made in a month? Do you remember? Like the most? You're like, holy crap.
Oh yeah. In 2005, when I had that big month, I think it was $13,000 in one month.
And that was back in 2005?
Yes. Wow. I was like, oh my goodness, this, and I was like, I worked in the body shop business, and this is the money that I made, and I have all these things to do. I was responsible for one person. That was me.
Wow.
Yeah. And that amazed me, because I had been a manager for a while there, and getting out of that and being responsible for myself, it was empowering to say, wow, I can't believe I get to do this and make this money and meet the people. I still remember the first people I ever sold a vehicle to.
Wow.
Yep. And when I had left 2 different dealerships, they followed me out to the dealership. I didn't tell every customer, you don't ever take the book of business with you or try to steal customers. But, I had one guy show up when I was doing recruiting, and the guy had a massive heart attack, had a cane, and he comes up and he goes, and I had been working in service and helped him. And he's like, they told me that you left, you weren't doing it anymore, you're over in this building. He says, like, oh my goodness, I thought I lost you forever, you know, trying to help them. So that attitude of service really helps people, that you build that loyalty with each other, because they know that they're not going to be lied to, they're going to be taken care of, and that you actually care. Yeah.
Something I noticed with folks when they start making really good money is they'll start to buy some nice things. You have pretty nice property. I can do research before I have folks on the podcast, and I was like, that's a pretty nice house. So did you get some nice cars? You know, when you got you know, at some of these different dealerships, and you saw some of the vehicles come through, being a car guy, do you feel like you, and just car guys in general and dealership guys in general, do you feel like they stretch themselves to the point where they're like, you know, their income goes up, so when you spend more, you make more, you spend more, kind of thing?
Well, most sales managers and owners, they love everybody to go into debt when they start selling, because that makes you feel empowered. You got to make those payments. And I'll talk to Dakota real quick about something, because I do remember this, and then I'll go back to my story. I remember, Dakota, when you wanted to lease that, was it a Genesis or something?
The G80 Sport?
Yes.
Yep.
And I remember we talked about it, and I was like, oh man, you're new into the business. I don't know if I'd do that. And he did it. And that's where everybody's different of what they're comfortable with. You know, my history of my life, we grew up with not a lot of stuff. So I always have that conservative approach, and I've always saved money. So if you looked at my property and stuff, that's a life's work of savings. That's not of my income. And I won't say the dollar amount, but I've made less money than the majority of the people that I've met as far as management. And they look at, and I remember your guys' podcast about, oh, it must be nice. It's like, no, wait a minute. You know, I'm the guy that when I was working in a parts department, I used to get made fun of because I had $2 in my wallet, sometimes nothing, because I was putting money in the bank and then becoming investment into investing in the stocks and bonds and stuff like that. So, but that's why I have some of the things. I am a very passionate person about cars. I have cars. I still have an old 70 Chrysler 300 convertible that was a trade-in at that Chrysler dealership when I was 19.
Wow.
I paid $500 for it. I still drive that car more than any of my other cars around town.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. And it was $500.
Yep.
Yeah. And so it's never been about fancy watches or homes or anything. The home that I have, I bought the property at the time I was married. I bought the property before we built a house. And then my daughter was getting ready to go to school, and private school was going to cost X amount of money, versus if we bought property somewhere and then we built a home, it would actually be a wash, but have a nicer home. She'll be in a better school district, and those different things. So that's why we did that. And then it helped that I got a barn to put some of my garage to put my cars in and stuff. So yeah, I'm blessed to have what I have.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate it a lot. Now turning 53 next week, I realize I don't need it all. It's just things. The most important thing to me is people.
Yeah.
Like you guys asking me to come here, I was honored, because I have a lot of respect for both of you. Always have. So, and I'm proud of you guys, the success that you've had.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I wanna tell you about that the car too now. So that car was there's a lot of lead up to that. So one is I was driving this old red beater truck. I don't know if you remember that one.
I do.
And it's funny because that thing actually didn't have heat. And so I didn't have defrost, and I drove that thing while I was like, I think I made like 84 grand my first year in sales. And so I was there, I think I made that, and I was still driving that piece of crap. And everybody else is looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And then when they told me there's like this program that you can get some money or whatever, you get $250. It was the minimum. And I'm like, all right, well, dang, let me buy the cheapest car there is then. And then, so I bought this Hyundai Accent. So then what I did is I hurried up, paid it off, and then I got to the point where I'm getting like $450 a month because I kept like getting the tiers, and I was getting $450 a month. So they ended up paying me like, I paid like 10 grand for that car. They ended up paying me like 17.5 over the time. And then I was thinking about getting the Genesis. While that one was paid off, I was like, okay, I'll sell this. That'll almost pay for all my lease payments because this one's paid off now, and it was a free vehicle anyway.
Can't go wrong.
My payment on that Genesis was $650 a month, and I was like, holy crap, that's a big payment. Then I was like, well, they're going to be paying me $400, $450, so my payment was really only $200 or $250. I can't remember. The gas was expensive as crap, though, because I was getting like 16 to 18 miles per gallon. But that car was amazing. And then the funniest part is I get in a disagreement with, well, it was multiple people, mostly just Paul, though, honestly. Paul, that's a whole nother story. But Paul then like basically fires me, and then now my payment's $650. You know, insurance wasn't that bad, but gas. So now I'm paying like $1,000 a month with gas and everything. And I was like, screw this car. That's when I got my my Toyota Camry hybrid, and then basically I traded that all in. It was basically a wash with the tax credit and stuff because I paid zero in taxes, and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna do this. So I'm still. The funniest part is whenever it looks like I'm spending a lot of money to the outside perception, relative to what I make, it is so like. I see people percentage-wise who spend way more, even though it doesn't look like it. They're spending so much more percentage-wise. It was usually like, by the time I did that, I was making like somewhere close to like $150 a year as well. And so it's like percentage-wise, it was so low in order to, again, reinvest into the future, which I think is the most important, which you're basically talking about.
This is kind of funny. It's like in the most careful way, Dakota's just like, I make a lot of money, like so much.
No, it's true.
Well, before I spend money, I would do.
Yeah, and you know, I had a similar story, but it started in '99. So I was able to get a reimbursement for a '99 Ram, and it was Dodge Sport. I still have that truck today sitting in my garage.
Oh, is that the green one?
The green one.
What?
That's the one.
So that was paid for by the dealership, basically?
Monthly, on a monthly, reimbursement. And I was like, either that or drive a demo. And I'm like, no, I'm going to take it because it's going to be an investment. And I use that truck a lot to tow when I was drag racing throughout the Midwest and stuff. Yeah, with
That's
my car.
freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I still drive it today. And people are like, oh, that's the nitrous fish truck. You know, Drew Thomas from Polish Works.
Yep.
Yeah, he said the same thing. You know, he's like, I can't believe, you know, you still have that truck. I love that truck. Little kids will always point at it and want to get their picture taken. It's a lot of fun.
So when did you start then? I thought you started in 05. What year did you start then?
I started at Glenbrook in '99.
Oh.
So, and I went there and became the body shop manager. And again, about being stretched and uncomfortable. So I had spent 12 years at Tompkins since I started there when I was 17 and had left. And then I never ran a body shop, but I knew parts and I knew service parts of it. So I went over there, and I remember, you know, the owner of Glenbrook, Mr. McKibben, and he's like, why should I hire you over anyone else? And I told him this. I said, it's the first time you feel like I'm not doing the best for you. I want you to fire me. Don't give me a notice. Don't do anything. I said, I will be your hardest working employee. And he gave me an opportunity over people with experience. Now, I had to put the work in. The body shop was a mess. It was a small body shop. There were so many receivables. They didn't have good quality at the time. And to be able to learn in that industry, and there was a lot of insurance adjusters that helped me along the way because I didn't know all of it. But yeah, I was there every morning, worked late. And, you know, there was one point I didn't have porters. I was taking out the trash, answering the phones. The secretary, when I tried to start bringing up the value of what we do, and hey, you're not gonna, you know, you've got to be a professional. You know, there's no smoking in the office, all these different things. And she didn't like it, and she quit within like a couple weeks.
Wow.
I didn't know the DMS system, how to do any of the accounting side of it. And there was a controller there at that time. She's no longer, you know, at the dealership. But yeah, she wasn't the nicest person, but she motivated me because she goes, well, it looks like you got yourself in a hell of a mess. I said, oh, so no one can help me? No. Okay. So I went back and literally called ADP and built a resource manual about how to open repair orders, close them, all these process books that I put in there so no one would have to go through what I went through.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was about, that motivates me when people, I like to be challenged, but also there's got to be respect in it too.
Right.
When you get disrespectful to your team and different things, that's very challenging, but you try to put that aside and go in every day and do your best.
Yep.
That's what it's about. I don't ever want to just coast. I've never lived my life that way. If I did, I would have never been able to move out of, we lived in a bad part of Fort Wayne. And
what's the bad part? What street?
We moved, oh my goodness, I bet we moved probably 10, 12 times when we were kids. My mom was a single parent, and we get kicked out of places because she couldn't afford to pay. And we were on government food and stuff. And I promised myself when I had an opportunity, I'm going to make it on my own. I moved out pretty early after I graduated from high school, and I remember having a conversation with my mom. I was the middle one. I didn't cause much trouble, so she loved me, and I was the last kid at home. And I said, Mom, you've got me here, and you could see the burden on your parents' face of being responsible, and she went through a lot to raise the three of us alone, and never met my dad. He didn't help with any child support, nothing. So we lived off Weiser Park, McClellan, all down there. That's when Geyer was open, and I went to Geyer and Southern Heights Elementary down there and stuff. And it taught me a lot of street smarts. And also, you had to, not that I like it, but, I had to learn to defend yourself and your property and stuff like that. I didn't like, literally, this is a crazy story, but it's true. Lunch line at Geyer, them old compasses, with the metal point on it and the pencil on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
They would stab people in the leg in the lunch line. Yeah.
Just to mess around?
Yeah. Some of that was crazy. And then my freshman year, I went to Wayne, and then my mom was able to move out north, and then I went to Northrop from sophomore year and graduated from Northrop.
Wow.
But it was interesting. It made me appreciate people and what life has to offer. But what is so sad to me is some people that never got out of that environment and said that they couldn't do more.
Yeah.
I feel that's one of the biggest disappointments in life, that people can't see value in themselves and make change sometimes.
That's one of the hardest things for me is I believe that anybody can do almost anything.
Yeah.
And so then I also believe that most people will not, based on statistics, facts, and just in general. But I also I think you have to do that. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to bring anybody on if you don't see something in them.
Yeah.
So I see that in a lot of people. And obviously you do too. You see, hey, you got a gift, and it's up to you whether or not you want to use it. I'm just encouraging you to use it.
Yes.
So
yeah,
that's a tough thing though, because it can also, the funniest part, I don't know if you've experienced this at all. What I experience is I have very high expectations because I believe people are capable of a whole lot, sometimes more than what they think they're capable of. And so then now it becomes an expectation kind of thing where I'm like, hey, no, I know you can do this. Now, I like to always have the buy-in from them as well. Do you want to do this? If you tell me yes, you want to do it, I'm now going to hold you accountable to what you said you want to do. And now people get real pissed whenever I do that, especially in a relationship, or family members and stuff. Do you experience anything like that?
Yeah, I have, and I've had it done to me. It's almost like throughout, being this old now, I've been in positions where, you're super successful, and other times you feel like, okay, what could I have done more? When you go into, whether it's a department or with a person, what is that ceiling? Where do you draw? Hey, this is all I can do. And I've never felt that I've ever hit that, and all I know is I know people, and I know automotive career is all I know other than that short time in the restaurant business, but to be able to transition as you guys have from automotive into what you do, I just find it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The skill sets that I'm sure you guys picked up and carried through into what you do now. But it is about challenging people. The thing that I find is tough in today's society, a lot of people, probably 90% of the people don't want to be challenged. It becomes offensive,
Yeah, that's why we get the expectations, the buy-in up front about where we are, our values, and make sure that it makes sense for them. And if it doesn't, then that's okay. You're not with us. That's fine. But if you say you're in, then yeah, you're going to be held to an expectation. And the coolest part is most of the people here, like they like it, and they want it. Because they like growing, and like they've been able to achieve things that they never even thought they would. And like they had somebody that believed in them that they never seen that before. And so, yeah, they just accomplished. We've seen a lot of these guys accomplish things that have been just super cool. Like we have a 19-year-old. I don't know if you heard about him, but so he was in high school, and we thought one day we need to hire some salespeople. Brought him on. I taught him everything that I know, and he ended up making last year. He made like $177,000 his first year while he was part-time in high school. Wow. And so, yeah, it's just insane. He got over 101 houses sold last year, or under contract, just him alone. So, yeah, he's just a beast. And he had no sales experience. He's a very quiet dude. So it's just like, yeah, it's crazy what people can accomplish with just a little bit of belief in them that they are able to do it, and accountability. And then, yeah, of course, give them the resources. But the belief, I think, is the most important thing.
It is. And it can't be phony. I always remember one time I was at a training session, they were talking about external or internal motivation. Sometimes as a leader or a manager, and they gave the scenario of, hey, you tell someone, hey, if you do this, I'm going to give you $20. So you give them $20. Well, they go buy lunch. They're all excited about it. And about half hour, 45 minutes after lunch, they kind of forget about it. So that's what I see sometimes in sales is people actually in any of their careers. Do you have that internal motivation, or is it always got to be external? Because external to me sometimes is just temporary. Because that external, you're either wanting something or you're getting something, then you're buying things. That internal, that's that fire in your belly, doesn't go away. I believe that's one of the key components that breeds success in a lot of people. Because without it, it's almost promoting complacency and just existing. And sometimes that's not good.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Is that what you look for the most in salespeople? Is that fire? You talk about it a lot.
I do, because I remember at one store when I was a sales manager, we had hired 2 females, and one was a real estate agent, moved into town. The other one was in pharmaceutical sales. And I remember talking to both of them and trying to help them. They were new into automotive sales career. And one, the pharmaceutical, hey, I got to learn about these cars. And she was studying all the books. And I remember telling her, I'm like, hey, you need to get in front of people so you can start learning and become comfortable to provide a service to them, and value. The other one, it was like, well, you get 3 people at a time, and she didn't know anything about cars, Which in short term, she's #1 salesperson.
Right.
And she stayed that way for a long time. A lot of respect for both those ladies. And the other one, and I always believe this, if you have that tenacity of learning that along with building some skill set of selling, it's just your curve is going to take quite a bit longer, to get to the top.
Yep.
And you can get to the top with doing that. But the ones that just get out there and jump into it, because it's more about making a connection with people and then providing that service to sales. Most people don't care. They want to know, where do you put the gas in? How do I sync my phone?
Yeah, they're like, I want the sunroof, I want this color. And yeah, you don't need to know much.
Yeah.
Who do you think's a better salesperson, men or women?
Boy, my belief is women.
I think so too.
And the same thing, even with like service writing, the majority of women that have that fire in their belly, you tell them, hey, do this, this, and this. Guess what happens? They do it. Sometimes the males have a mentality of, hey, I know, or yeah, I'll do it. And then you ask them the next day, hey, did you do this? No, I'm going to. Well, the problem is, gonna never got going sometimes, So you got to take that action sometimes.
Is that the only difference that you see in men and women and salespeople, and like why you think they're better? Is there anything else that you think like women do better than men, like specifically, like that's just a very specific example?
They're good at building rapport.
Yep.
A lot of guys come in and, and it's changed, and I'm happy because there was time in my career, there wasn't very many women in any of those positions. And for them to have that opportunity, again, if it's a single parent mom that gets to change their life, it's amazing to see that, hey, they can actually become a service writer and make really good money, or they can sell cars and make really good money. There's so much opportunity in some of the dealerships. And most of them are open-minded to say, hey, what do I need to do? Because I want to be good. And then, especially when they get it in their mind, it's like, no, I want to be great.
Yeah.
And that's when it's fun.
Yep. I always say I think that women are way better because they can ask like harder questions and it's less offensive. People always let their guards down more with women. I feel like they're just more that nurturing. They're more empathetic. They're better at listening. And it just seems like they're just if they can stay in it, they can do it better. The hardest part that I think is for women is having the thick skin to deal with the rejection. It's very difficult from what I've seen for a lot of women, but the women that are salespeople, like the good real estate agents, like all these people, like, man, they'll crush any guy. Like the guy has to do like twice as much prospecting in order to get the same close ratio, because I do think that women are better salespeople if they can learn it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they get into it, and a lot of them, they're like, hey, tell me something about the car, because I don't know. So you're trying to tell them real quick, oh, yeah, it's got a 3.5 in it, and they go out. But then it's just closing someone on payment.
Yep.
How are you going to fit it in their budget? And they're really good about that, And like you said, they can bring up some topics that don't seem like they're so offensive, to whether it's a couple, or the husband's there, The thing in sales that I always I thought was most challenging, and I'm sure you experienced this. They're like, oh, well, my wife's not with me, or my husband's not with me, so.
Oh, yeah. We train for that one a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you say when people say that?
Well, I usually tell them, okay, well, if there's any other reason why they would reject to it, is there a point why you couldn't sign for this right now? I'm sure you picked out the perfect car. I'm sure you guys talked about this before you came here. Mm-hmm. And they normally have, right?
Right.
So what it comes down to, again, is it just budget fitting into their budget?
Yep.
Would you agree?
So I usually go about it just slightly different, but it's basically the same principles. I would just say, well, I mean, does your wife know you're here? And like act real concerned. Oh yeah, she knows I'm here. I'm like, okay, good. I figured like if you guys talk about everything, at least you know you're here. Like make jokes, because I like to definitely make jokes if I'm gonna ask a closing question. And then from there, I would go into, okay, I mean, did you guys talk about the vehicle that you want and stuff like that? Oh yeah, that's okay. And then did you guys talk about where you guys wanted to be at monthly? Oh, yeah, we talked about it, but, I just want to run everything past them. Like, I completely understand. And, like, I would do the same thing if I were you, and that makes complete sense. I mean, what did you guys talk about? And then, again, leave it open. And so, you're like, if I could do this, you wouldn't need to talk to the wife then? No, because, we already talked about it. Cool. So then I just get their commitment at that point. Yeah. And what a lot of people do is just like, hey, can you call your wife? Oh, no, she's at work. Well, they always say they're unavailable.
Right.
It's not the wife or anything that's holding them back. It's they don't want to make a decision right now, or there's something wrong. And so I was just talking to the sales guys about this morning. The most important thing to do is make them comfortable with giving you the objections. As soon as they don't feel comfortable with you, when you keep coming back with these like quick-witted, like, hey, do it kind of thing, they're now not going to tell you why they're not doing it. They're just going to tell you that something's up and they're going to go. Yeah. So if you can get them to feel comfortable with their concerns, I'm like, dude, objections, and I know not every salespeople agree with this. I think objections are a good thing. That means that they're telling me their concerns and I can address their concerns. And if I can help them with everything, why would they not move forward?
Right.
But it's when they don't feel comfortable with telling me something that we have a problem. Yes. And I was like, man, like, if they're sitting there like, well, it's really, everything sounds great other than, just need to talk to my wife. And okay, perfect. Like, that's good news. So other than you talking to your wife, that's the only thing holding you back? Yep, that's it. All right, cool. And then I'd go into that. And from that point on, though, like, I now know they're interested. And I told them it's the same thing with the relationship. If they're talking to you and they're still texting you back and forth, it might be tension. You might be fighting. But if they're talking to you, that means they're still interested. Right. It's when it gets cut off that there is no sale. They're not interested anymore. There's no relationship. And so until we're to that point and they're saying things that they're like objecting to, we probably got a deal. I'm excited when I hear objections because that means I built enough rapport that they're going to tell me what's wrong.
Yes. Yeah. And You know, the thing that always amazed me, whether I was on the floor or I was a manager going out for a TO, and everybody says, "Oh, we're not buying anything today," you know, or a salesman doesn't let a manager talk to the customer, and all of a sudden they leave, and I'm like, "Where'd they go?" "Oh, they're going home." And I'm like, "They're not going home. They're going to another dealership." You know, and sometimes customers, they get so confused because there's not that clear path in helping them to make that decision today.
Right.
And so they're like, well, let's just go over there and see what they have.
Yep.
That's not what you want. And there was, you know, there was times I'd call the customer up. "Hey, it's such and such. I didn't get a chance to meet you." "Yeah, they're sitting at the dealership across the lot."
Right.
you know, and I'm like, you know, why did we not ask some key questions to help that customer? That's and you know, especially in today's world, I believe customers that are coming onto the car lots, nobody's got time to waste anymore in this world, and everybody shops from their cell phone, right?
Yep.
So your one opportunity when they pull into that lot is so important that you engage and find out what they really need, because you know you can about get any car that any customer wants.
Right.
You gotta be able to provide that to them and build that relationship.
Yep.
And then once you do that, it's great how long the relationships last.
Yep.
You know, if you're true and you're genuine.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I have so many people actually. Even so, just like the other day, we got a battery review. I posted on there, "Hey guys, we got a battery review. We never even done business with this guy. Could we go spread some more positivity?" There's people I sold cars to. They're like, I'm going on there. I'm doing it right now. And like, there's literally leaving these reviews and stuff from people from 10 years ago that I built that relationship with, and they're like, "No, I know." And we've gotten a lot of referrals from people that and here's the funniest part too, that you'll actually appreciate this. I've worked with guys who are some shady people and do some
I probably
shady.
know some of them.
Oh yeah, you definitely do. And the funniest part is they will still bring customers like for houses to me or to us because they're like, "Dude, I know how you were," and they trust me. Yes. Even though like I would never go to them for anything because I don't trust them at all, but they know that because of the way that I dealt with clients and stuff, they're like, "All right, we can go to him and like he's gonna be legitimate, he's gonna be truthful, he's gonna be honest. Are we gonna offer the most? Absolutely not. But I'm gonna be straight up honest with you that we're not gonna offer the most, and I'm gonna make sure that it makes sense for you and that's what you want to do." We always ask that, "Hey, are you looking to get the most or are you looking for the simplest process?" It's the same thing when you go to trade in your car. Are you looking to get the most or are you looking for the simplest process? Because if you're looking to get the most, you need to go post that thing on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace or something. If you want the easiest process, let's trade it in right now. So it's just finding out what they want and then giving them that. And if we're not it, then I tell them that, "Hey, we're not a right fit for you, but we do have an agent here that can help you. We have all these other ways to help you still. It's not us directly where we make money, but I'm still willing to help." But yeah, those relationships, man, you never know who you're talking to either.
Right.
So they're the most important.
They are.
So, Rob, if you didn't find cars, if you didn't get into the car dealership, you didn't get into the dealership world, what would you have ended up doing instead? If money were no object, where would you be working right now?
Real estate. No.
If you're working for LTD.
You know, I really like to talk about perspective. So just to circle back my upbringing, and I remember in middle school, you used to have to fill out these cards and say, "Hey, what do you want your career to be?" And this is where I talk about people's ceilings. So I wrote down two things, and you were supposed to. You know what I wrote down? I wanted to be a garbage man or a truck driver. True story. And that's what I thought I was going to do because I'm going to be safe and comfortable and, income. Now, that all went out the window once I started, looking at, hey, I can do more of this and that, but I don't know. I think it would be something in helping people. Again, would it be in sales? Quite possibly. There's just, I love to cook. My mom for a brief time had a small restaurant, and I have that passion because sometimes food is love to people, and there's just so many different things. But the career that I've had, I have just been so thankful for the people that I've met and the relationships that I have today. I don't know where life would take me if I didn't do that. There was a time, very brief time, and I don't know if many people know this, I worked for the post office. So in my early 20s, I was thinking about getting out of the dealership life. So the post office had an ad out in the newspaper, when there was newspaper, and you had to go and take a test. And it was a memorization test. And back then I had a great memory, and you had to memorize the numbers, the street address, the zip codes and everything, and I actually scored 100% on that.
Wow.
So I could go work at any post office that I wanted to. And I was lucky. My mom did the same thing because she was going to do it. And I don't know if she turned down a job or what happened there. Well, I had an opportunity. So I left the dealership, worked in the post office in New Haven. Loved the job. It was rough. Back then I was in really good shape. I loved the job. It was fun, meeting people, sorting mail, cold, hot, whatever. It didn't bother me. But there was a supervisor there, and this was a turning point again, a motivating factor to me. There was a supervisor that I had a death in the family, and I had a aunt that she had some challenges in life, but she was able to. They thought she would always be in a home, and she had moved to Fort Wayne and actually became pretty much self-sufficient, and no one ever gave her a chance. And she worked for across from Wrigley Field as on State at a restaurant, Jeff's Coney, and she was walking across the street and got hit by a car and killed her.
Oh my gosh.
So the whole time I worked for the post office, almost a year, and you had to call in early if you're going to call in sick. I never called in sick. Now, I'm a young man, and there's things that you do when you're young, out partying and all this stuff. I never called in sick, never did anything. Always, they called me at 4 a.m. Hey, we got someone called sick. I went in. I never told them no. I called in. I said, hey, my aunt has been killed. I need a couple days off. Now, I had all kinds of PTO time, all this stuff I could take. And I got threatened. My job was threatened. They're going to write me up AWOL and all kinds of stuff. And I was upset. So it was hard. I left that job, and I remember the supervisor told me this, looked me in the eyes. He said, I went in and I said, because after I said this, some of the carriers they always called me the kid. They were all older gentlemen, and they got along with all the other carriers, and they heard what happened, and condolences and stuff. And I told them, I said, I'm not very happy. I was pretty upset at this supervisor. And so I walked in, I had to make a decision, and I told my mom, I said, I'm going to quit. And my mom's like, your future, you could be retired, this and that. I said, Mom, it's against my principles that someone disrespected our family like this, and I can't live with that, being around that person every day, and that's on principle. And I walked in, I think I was like 21, 22, 23 maybe, and told him, I said, hey, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice. And he told me, he said, you got to put it in writing. So I went back to my little cubicle, wrote out, said, I'll never again work for the United States Post Office as long as you're in charge. And I quit, and that motivated me like nothing else. And you know what? I've made way more money than that guy has ever made. And I've never been back to tell him, thank you. I don't hate you. I thank you because you motivated me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I protected my family that way because you just don't do that, and instead of asking and understanding, and I think sometimes that happens in business and situations, instead of asking and understanding, you dictate and you have no idea. And some people that crushes, and some people it motivates. And yeah, I can be a dangerous person when I'm motivated. So, yeah. But other than that, that would have been my career. And I really enjoyed it. So.
That's awesome. I literally just had a conversation with one of the people that work with us yesterday, and it was very similar, where he was not anything with him like needing time off. He's just upset about some things and like kind of not doing great. And so like sat him down. I'm like, hey man, are you okay? Yeah. Like, like that's the first thing is like, are you good? Because like, and I told him this, I was like, I care more about your happiness and like everybody else in this place's happiness than I do about making more money. Yeah. We're not money machines. We're not machines or anything like that. Right. It matters. Like we got into this business to work with people that we want to work with. And if you're not happy, I don't want you to be here then either. Yeah. Like you can leave and like, do whatever you need to do, man. Because like we'll find some other way to do this. But if you're here, I want you to be with us. And I want to let you know that I care about you. Yeah. Like as a friend, more than I care about making money. Making money is not what we give a crap about. Do we need to stay in business? Sure. Yeah. But at the same time, that's not the ultimate goal. Our goal is to like actually enjoy what we do every day. And so if you're not enjoying it anymore, stuff changes, and I get it. Yeah. Just make sure you leave before you destroy it for everybody else. And he's been super great. And I think that just asking people if they if they're okay. And like we have a extreme amount of freedom, especially for somebody like you, like for the hard worker, people who get stuff done. I don't give a crap how much you work, as long as everything gets done. I don't care. You don't have to be here. You could be freaking in another country. It doesn't matter for me as long as the stuff gets done. And I think I got that from the dealership as well, because I could sell a lot of cars, and like if you can find me and you tell me I have to work a certain parameters, I'm not going to do it. And so we kind of really have that mentality too. Like, you have freedom here. You can do what you want, and we care about you. We have expectations, and if you don't meet them, then we'll fire you. And that's okay, because it's going to be mutually agreed upon. But I think that it's very important to care about the people. And that's something that I don't see very much, and just in general. Yeah,
because I feel like everybody feels they're busier than everybody else in life, right? To come along with someone and say, hey, how are you doing? How's things in life? You know, because we only get one, right? And we're only here, and we have no idea how long we're going to be here. You know,
good, great segue, Rob. Float to the very end of your life. Okay? We're saying that you're making it to 100. You're on your deathbed. And now you have a final message to the world. So everybody will know that it was yours. They'll be like, yeah, that was definitely Rob that would have said that. It's your last message. It's something that's meaningful to you. And it could be a paragraph. It could be a sentence. It could be a saying. It could be a billboard on Times Square. It's your legacy message. What are you going to say?
Man, it almost makes me tear up. I guess I would say I tried my best. I wasn't perfect. And I truly cared. And I love the people that I love that are in my life, you know, even if they're acquaintances over the years, I care. And some people, you know, at some point, I hope everybody understood how much they were of value to me, because I learned a lot from everybody I had interactions with. It wasn't just me teaching all them. They taught me a lot, you know, and empowered, and very thankful for the life that I've had. And, you know, I love my daughter more than anything in the world. And
Wow.
Awesome.
Love it.
So
cool, man.
Well, thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to say to our viewers, or any way that we can get a hold of you if folks want to buy a car, they want to come see you at the dealership? How should they reach out?
I would just say I'd like to leave everybody with this, is to look in the mirror, and if you're not happy with your career or where you're at, to understand you have a higher ceiling than you've ever imagined you could. You got to take that step, find some mentors, take that step, and start with yourself. Don't expect everybody else to give it to you. Read books, get educated about it. You know, currently now I am at Shepherd's. If you need anything, you can contact me at Shepherd's in Auburn, Indiana. So, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
I watch you guys a lot and appreciate what you're doing out there. You're doing great.
Thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for hiring us back in the day. And thanks for coming on, man. I think you provided a lot of value, a lot of help for just anybody, and a lot of great advice. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks again.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.